Good evening, Vancouver, or is it a good evening? We will discuss, as I'm sure you all know. Hope you're all doing well. It is a lovely Wednesday night, a smoky Wednesday night, a few days after we normally do this, and we have 4 just fun hockey games to talk about. As always, though, here with my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing, Clay? How are you holding up over this last week?
Truly, Parker, I'm okay. I was sad that I didn't have my co-host here to bounce. Well, I could still bounce things off you, but you were 3 hours ahead, maybe using data sometimes, maybe using Wi-Fi. I just want you to know, brother, that I was thinking about you, living vicariously through you, and then I didn't want to live vicariously through you for 2 of those games, but I know we're going to get into it. I'm glad you're back in one piece. I'm glad you're smiling. Like we were preparing for the show, and you seem to be in a decent mood considering what you just experienced.
I'm just excited to be awake. I'll be honest. I felt, about 2 hours ago, I was like,
Yeah.
it's way too late for me to text Clay and say I'm not going to make it.
Oh,
so
you
run the coffee. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, because you're at 1 a.m. your body clock right now.
Kinda. I think I stayed on Pacific time the whole time I was there, to be honest. But no, it was a lovely time. But we are going to break down 4 big Canucks leads that didn't last for more than 40 minutes at a time, which is the fun part. I don't know if we have much other news to talk about. I guess reverse retros drop tomorrow, which we've already seen it, and the Canucks one's ugly. So unless you have a different take, but that might be a short segment.
Might be a bunch of short segments tonight. I can feel it.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to touch on before we get into 4 hockey games?
Yeah, before we get into the games, and then we can look quickly ahead to, I see the show going in 2 halves, basically. Talking about what's happened so far and your unique perspective on it, and then looking ahead to maybe we don't go too far. We go Minnesota, and then at least Buffalo and Carolina, the 3 games that they'll play before the next time we do our show. Having said all that, before we get into the games, I think it's interesting that you're hearing a lot now of, maybe it's because they're losing, you're hearing a lot of, locker room cliques, star players not. And I don't know, Parker, maybe that comes with the territory with a team that is not meeting expectations. But I think Horvat and Miller tried to put that to bed last year. I don't know if this one's about Miller and Petey or Hughes. I don't know. And I don't care, actually. I don't worry about that kind of stuff because I think we're only hearing about it because they're struggling. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm usually of the if there's smoke, there's fire mindset for things like this. But the fact that last year there was smoke and seemingly no fire leads me to believe a little bit less of it. And I saw some things that were kind of funny about, be like, wow, it's someone in the Chicago atmosphere that's talking about all this stuff after they were doing it last year, right after the Gaudette move. So it's like, are these guys just getting sent out of Vancouver and just leaking things to the Chicago people?
Right, Gaudette last year, Dickinson now. Yes.
Like, is that a thing that's happening? What a weird thing to happen. But yeah, it's I'm not going to lean too much into it because again, we don't know anything, right? Most of this is brewing from some random person in Chicago that I've never heard of.
Yeah, ditto. I agree. That's a good way of putting it. And so I'll save. Yeah, let's tie in the the benchings and the scratches and the why aren't you dressing this particular defenseman that we both love. We can save all that for as we go through each game, I think. Then.
Yeah, I think that's a fair play. This Oilers game? This Oilers game was only a week ago, hey?
Yeah, because we did our show on Thanksgiving Monday, the 10th. And then because we knew that we wouldn't get together to the 19th, so it's technically 2 days extra. Yeah, and the Canucks fit in 4 games.
Yeah, and my goodness, what a start!
Yeah,
and I mean that genuinely. What a start the Canucks had in Edmonton with Elias Pettersson scoring 2 minutes in, with JT Miller just a random shot that got through a minute later, and me thinking, all right, this is the offense we were promised. Yeah. I'm scared. And apparently for good reason. Andrei Kuzmenko gets his first goal. Nice little power play goal, 39 seconds into the second. And then the first collapse of the week. And it's a Draisaitl power play goal. It's a Connor McDavid power play goal. And then the Canucks up 3-2, get a power play their like 8th power play of the game at this point. Maybe it was only like their 6th of the game at this point. I mean, they had 8 power plays during this game, and then Darnell Nurse goes and scores shorthanded.
Yeah.
And then I think I remember tweeting after this, please just get a point. And then people said I jinxed it. I have not jinxed a thing.
By the way, speaking of jinxes, we want to acknowledge this. Lucas, thank you for the donation, Lucas. Parker, you're a jinx. LOL. So I don't think Lucas in his heart means that. There might be other people that think that, but I don't think that either, just so you know.
Well,
thank you.
I wasn't at this game. I wasn't at the Columbus game. I will be at the game against Carolina.
Me too. Double jinx.
Well, maybe it double 2 negatives, right? That's
we're
how
gonna win.
It works. Perfect.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we're set.
We're calling
yeah, and then so Connor McDavid does Connor McDavid things in the third.
Yeah.
Scores with 5 minutes to go. Canucks almost answer, and then the whole empty net thing, and then McDavid gets the hat trick. And that's the first blown lead. And I know this was where we were all like, all right, hey, the Canucks had great offense. We know they have bad defense. Edmonton's a good team. Connor McDavid was Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Right. That was what your thought was at this point, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you don't want to just excuse it. It sounds like a trite. It's so easy to go to, but I think we kind of saw that every time McDavid touched the puck, you knew something was going to happen. You can't stop that. And we joke around, oh, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. But it's so true. That's why he scores 120 points every season, 130 points every season. So you put in, you're playing against a very dangerous player. Plus our special team stunk, as you mentioned. We were 1 for 8. Then they went 3 for 4. So.
Yeah, plus the
shorthanded.
So, the Canucks go net 0 for 8 on the power play against an Oilers special teams unit that converts 4 times.
Yeah.
Even though the Canucks did outshoot them 36-25, it's just making the most of your opportunities. And we're in a league where scoring 3, is the bare minimum if you want a chance to win, especially against a team like Edmonton. They convert on one more of those power plays. They go 2 for 8. Maybe even prevent that shorthanded goal, and this is a game that goes the Canucks' way. And so that was sort of the mindset at that point. I was like, look, it was the home opener in Edmonton.
Yes.
And me being upset was just like, look, that was your best. You gave yourself every chance to win that game.
Yep.
Because after the 39-second mark of the second period, you're probably a 90% favorite to win that game, 95 maybe even, right? You're up 3-0. You can't let that go, right? When you're a team where every point's going to matter going in for a playoff race. And boy, did I not realize how much how much blowing leads was going to be a factor in this first week.
And you look back, and we have to do this objectively. We have to pretend we don't know what happened in the next 3 games. So you're right. It's the Edmonton Oilers home opener, our team that went to the Final Four. It's McDavid and Draisaitl, and we're missing 3 of our regulars, 2 of our top 5 defensemen in Myers and Dermott, and you're missing Mikheyev, a top 9 player. So I can't remember if Edmonton had any major. Oh, I remember Edmonton only dressed 11 forwards. So,
right.
But overall, I remember this. I was okay. It wasn't making excuses, but I was okay losing. It's not like I was playing. I was okay with the Canucks losing first game, given all of that, and remember trying to objectively remember how I felt 9 nights ago.
Yeah, and a big piece of that was their next game is, look, it's the perfect bounce back opportunity, right? You're against the Flyers, who are supposed to be a bad team, right?
Yeah.
And that would be a really good chance to just get on track, forget that Edmonton game, and start rolling on forward. This is a game that, when this one was up 2-0, there was no way they were going to do that again.
Yes. Never.
No.
They're always going to, never going to give up another lead.
Yeah. So moving on to this Philadelphia game.
That you were at?
Which I was at. I will say Wells Fargo Arena, Wells Fargo Center. I don't remember which one it is.
Let's go Center.
Lovely arena. Honestly. Fantastic facility.
Where were your seats, Parker? Where were your seats?
We were 10th row, basically in line with the face-off dot in the zone, on the side the Canucks shot twice. So
nice.
We did get to see 4 of the 5 goals on that side, including a random Kyle Burrows wrist shot that went in, which was fun. That was a nice, fun chance for us to stand up and cheer. A Connor Garland goal that was pretty nice, with 6 minutes to play in the first period. And again, we're going into the intermission feeling pretty good.
Yes.
I don't know what things were like online, what the vibe was like, were people being like, "Oh, are they going to blow this one too?" Like jokingly. Were you seeing any of that?
I'd say that's fair. There's a little bit of that, and you're always going to get that. And that's kind of one thing, Parker, I've been talking about on my streams is I don't know. We don't have the right to tell anyone how to cheer, how to be sarcastic, how to be genuine, whatever. But even up to nothing, Philly was supposed to be really bad. They were supposed to be really bad. And whereas our first period against Edmonton was really good, some acknowledge that. You tell me. A lot of people here were saying that Philly actually had the better first period. We just wound up coming out of it 2-0.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, you think of the two Canucks goals, right? Like that Burrows goal was a random rush goal down the wing. And then after that, I mean, goaltending was good. Mm-hmm. I wasn't getting much of a vibe for who was the better team at certain times. Yeah. I mean, shots in the first period were 14-4 for Philly. So I would imagine that bodes well for them in comparison to the Canucks. I do want to pull up the old natural stat trick here and see what the expected goals were in the first. Expected goals in the first were 1.6 for Philadelphia.
Yep.
And 0.11 for the Canucks. So a 93% expected goals lead for the Philadelphia Flyers. So yeah, I think that's fair that the Philadelphia Flyers were the better team in the first period. But the Canucks were up 2-0. And they had a perfect chance to bounce back in the intermission, and guess what? They did. Analytically, again, we'll go back to the expected goals here. Flyers expected to get 0.6 goals in the second period. The Canucks expected 2.08. So the Canucks with 78% expected goals in the second period. But it's the Flyers capitalizing on a power play goal from Tony DeAngelo from the point. And then the Canucks giving up their second shorthanded goal of the year to Scott Lawton. And just like that, now it's a tie game going into the third period.
How were you feeling? Actually, I asked you before we started. You said the Philly fans were actually nice.
Yeah, there was honestly, I don't think they cared about us at all. We were not too rambunctious. We were standing up and cheering when our team scored. Other than that, we were just sitting and focused on the game.
Yeah.
There were the people in front of us. There was one lady who grew up in Langley, which was amazingly surprising. Those two goals were kind of sitting there because we know what has happened 3 nights prior in Edmonton. And we're kind of just doing one of these on the armrest, just kind of sitting and like, are you kidding me? Like, is this truly happening against the Philadelphia Flyers? And then go third period. Look, brand new period. Yes. Canucks are going to come up flying. The Canucks are the better team on paper here. They just got to go get it done. And, I mean, not much. Like, it felt like nothing really happened in the third period. I mean, at least that was the vibe in the arena. Like, shots were 13-8. It didn't feel like either team had a bunch of life. The analytics kind of, 50-50 expected goals-wise in the third period. It was just kind of we were just kind of sitting there watching, and then, it's one goal where Travis Konechny scores with 6 minutes to go.
I can't remember that goal. What happened?
I genuinely don't remember it either.
Yeah.
But I am watching it. It is a random. Oh, it's the puck that was thrown on net from basically the top of the faceoff circle by Provorov, and it jumped over Miller's stick as Konechny circled the net.
Of course.
And he just tucked it in, and that's all it needed.
And it's. And here, again, I sound like a broken record, but we have to place ourselves at this moment on Saturday, and you see the exact same thing. A quick start by the Canucks, giving up a shorthanded goal, and then losing in the final 6 minutes, giving up the game winner. So already 2 games in, one against a pretty good team in Edmonton, one against a team that we thought wasn't good in Philly, who are now, I guess, 3-0. You're already starting to see a couple bad trends, but you're also saying, okay, that's only 2 games down.
Yeah, it's 2 games on a road trip. Look, we said if the Canucks go 2-3, but they show up pretty well.
Yeah.
And to me, scoring a bunch of goals and being good on the power play, that would be showing up pretty well. Yep. I wouldn't care too much about that, although neither of those things had happened yet. But Canucks just win 2 of the next 3 on the road trip, and it's kind of salvage. It's not the end of the world.
Yes. Yes.
But then, it's the long trip out to Washington, D.C. It's, I assume it's like a 25-minute flight at most, because it was a 2-hour train for us. But we head over to Capital One Arena in D.C., and we're hoping for offense. That's the goal here, right? And it starts differently. And I remember looking over at Travis, the person I was with, and saying, "This is different. This bodes well." When Alex Ovechkin scored a minute in, because I said the Canucks don't have a lead to blow. Jokingly, of course. And then end of the period, 17.6 seconds on the clock, face off in the Canucks zone. Beers are empty. We both need to use the washroom, and we're thinking, good time to use the washroom, right? There's beat the crowd to it. And he's about to get up. I'm like, no, they score here.
Yes.
It's a defensive zone face off. No, they don't score here, but they do. Because Quinn Hughes does the bank pass, and Elias Pettersson has it jump over Darcy Kemper's stick, tucks it in, and now it's a brand new game, right? Tie game. It was exactly what they needed. You don't want to go into the intermission down. You apparently don't want to go into the intermission with a lead. So if you go into the intermission tied, that's got to be the perfect scenario. So all was well at that point.
When that puck went in, and it was, I don't know sure you heard it ping or if it did ping, but apparently he went post in, and it wasn't.
Oh boy, I didn't notice that.
Because
we immediately got up, cheered, ran up the stairs
to beat the crowd. To beat the crowd,
beat the crowd to the washroom line, because they were pretty bad lines at that arena. But we were dancing up the stairs, we were fired up. Let's go. And then we come sit back down in our seats. Fresh beer, fresh food. We're feeling good. And then Lars Eller scores 8 seconds into the period. And immediately just deflated. You're like, oh boy. But the Canucks showed out pretty well in the second period. They then come out. They get Bo Horvat's first of the year with 8 minutes in, and then just 11 seconds later, Curtis Lazar scores.
That was nice,
which was fantastic.
I'm not sure if he meant to do that, but it was nice.
Hey, it works, right?
Yes,
we take it, and then. Near the end of the period, Canucks get a power play, and they do something with this one. It's their only power play of the night. It's Evgeny Kuznetsov baseball swinging Kyle Burroughs in the face. Crazy that's a 2-minute penalty, but there's no blood, and that's apparently the only thing that matters, not the amount of violence behind a swing or intent. He did get suspended for 1 game after, but that doesn't help the Canucks at all. And JT Miller makes it 4-2, power play goal. To end the second period. And the
How
Canucks
you feeling right there at that second intermission?
I'm feeling good. The offense is clicking. The Canucks were clearly the better team. They're up in shots at this point, 26-20. Energy levels are good. But we didn't realize that the Canucks were up 2 goals going into an intermission. And apparently that's the only thing that matters, because you then have a power play for Washington and Dylan Strome scoring to start the period. And then 7 minutes later, John Carlson with just a rocket. And then you have 4 minutes after that, in an already tied game, you have Connor Sherry scoring, and then Alex Ovechkin gets the second of the night. Kind of a weird. Was that the weird one, or was this first one the weird one? That was sort of under Demko's pad.
The first one was the weird one.
Yeah, that's all I remember. But
that Sherry goal, that was the one where no one checked anyone as they gained the line, and they just kind of let Washington pass the puck around, and they found that seam right left point to right side of the net. And wasn't that the tip in? I'm pretty sure that was the tip.
I think so. Yeah.
There've been so many goals, man. I can't tell them apart.
There have been so many goals going the wrong way. Yeah. That now it's 6-4. The Canucks challenge it, and I literally I was like, oh, and then I looked up at the jumbotron. I was like, oh, that's gonna count, and then we moved on. And the Canucks had the penalty kill, so there's nothing they were gonna do in those last 3 minutes.
What's the Washington arena compared to the Philly arena like?
It's also fine. It's so much more central. The Philly arena, they have this little stadium district in the south area where it's just the Phillies stadium, and they were playing their elimination game that day. And then there was the Eagles Stadium, and then the Philly Stadium, all in sort of like a triangle, and then a really cool entertainment sort of district there.
Yeah.
The Washington one's just like in the heart of buildings. Like it's like another building on a block. Like just one of the city blocks is this building. You don't even really notice it if you're not paying attention. Philly Arena was more modern, nicer, but the Caps Arena was fine. More like Rogers, I'd say, maybe a little bit lower.
Okay.
Fine arena though. They were all good.
And I like this kind of thing. I think you do too. Tell me about the game presentation in both arenas.
So the Philly rink was pretty dead. It was only, I think, 77% of seats were sold, attendance wise. So it felt kind of empty. And they had the standard. It was very standard, right? They had the kids at the intermission playing, and I don't think they weren't revolutionizing anything. Lots of people complain about the Rogers Arena game presentation, all that stuff. Theirs weren't any better. But yeah, it was fine.
Okay. So at that point, and I know you were flying home during the Columbus game, correct? Like that was
correct.
You didn't go to that one. So you come out of there, you've just whatever, whether you worry about the money, the time, the energy, or you're simply like, how are you feeling walking out now, watching two collapses?
So walking out after that game, we were a little frustrated.
Yeah.
On like sort of the first 5 blocks we walked or so, we're like, and we're still like around, like there's still Washington fans around, and they're kind of happy, and that makes me mad. So we're just kind of like walking down the street, whatever, and then eventually we sort of get out of the city district, and we're looking at the map because like, all right, the White House is here, and then we just forget about the game, right? We just sort of we're like, all right, we got to do our exploring. So we walked around DC for 2 hours, and then everything was sort of fine. The next morning we kind of woke up. We're like, can you believe that? Like, you believe what happened last night? Like, what a mess. And then we were basically just on the clock. We didn't really have much time to reflect on that second game because we basically had 5 hours in DC until we had to be on a plane.
Wow. Okay. So then, did you get a chance to watch the Columbus one? Oh yeah, no, yeah, I saw your tweet. Actually, you did.
Yeah, no, we're on the plane. 2 legs of the flight. First leg to Montreal. We land in Montreal at about 6 o'clock local time, 5:45ish local time, and then our flight to Montreal takes off at about 6:35. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. We got to get through customs, all that stuff. So we're hustling. We get on the plane. Everything's good. And it's a plane with Wi-Fi, and we have this little row to ourselves. I'm like, perfect. You know what? It's $20. I'll get the Wi-Fi. Wasn't working for the first hour of the flight. They had to come over the intercom and be like, the Wi-Fi's not working. We're trying to fix it. And then they reset it, and it worked. So it's about 7:40 local time. No, yes, local time. 4:40 Vancouver time. So basically the end of the first period. I know the first period's going to be over. So my thought is, all right, well, I don't need to get the Wi-Fi yet, because my thought was I want to check the score. And if the score is good, then I'll watch the game. But if they're down 2-0, then whatever, I'm just going to sleep. And then I realized that I can't check the score unless I pay for the Wi-Fi, so I commit. It was either I could get an hour of Wi-Fi for like $14 or the whole flight for $20. I was like, okay, I'll do the whole flight. Yeah. And I get it. It takes forever for me to get my Telus Optic TV app to work because the Sportsnet app does not work at all. And after a while, the Wi-Fi is so slow, but eventually it works, and I can watch it at like there's like maybe 1,000 pixels on my screen at most. It's like 360p, but I'm watching it. I got the sound in the earbuds. Cuts out every like 4 minutes. I have to reboot the app. But the Canucks are up, and but yes, I did unfortunately pay more money than a ticket to that game was if we had stayed in Columbus. Because I checked, I could have got in the door for $13. I paid more than that to watch that on the plane.
Well, thank you for your commitment to this team. This one, because the Horvat and Pettersson goals were so nice. Well, the Horvat one was for sure. The Pettersson to Horvat shorthanded, that was beautiful. That was wow. Okay, we have a shorthanded goal for once. Awesome. And then the Pettersson one, the Höglander and Puckholzen and PD really dominating that stretch of play. I'm not sure if you saw the highlight. And then it was actually a shot that went wide that PD was. He's so smart. Whether it's that one that bounced over Kemper or this one, he's very opportunistic. Like that's why he has 6 points in 4 games. And then Danforth's goal, it bounces off another guy. Like, sure, they had a 2-on-1 in front of Martin, but it's not his fault. And then because it bounces off one guy, Danforth with some great hand-eye coordination, you got to give it to him. So Martin has no chance. Hughes maybe could have tied him up a little better, but that was a pretty fluky goal, that first one.
Yeah, he bunts it out of the air basically. And again, I'm scrolling Twitter because I get the Wi-Fi at the end of the first period. So first thing I do, I go into like the Reddit game thread so I can find the 2 highlights really easily.
Yes.
Watch the Canucks goals. We're sitting there, we fist bump. We're like, yeah, all right, we're doing good. And then I start scrolling Twitter, and all the tweets of like, oh well, 2-goal lead again. And we're like, there's no way that happens again. So yeah, there's that Danforth goal in the second period.
Yeah.
And then we go to the third period.
Yep.
And then Columbus ties it up. It's 2-2. It's a Werenski goal, and that feeling of dread has come in. But one thing the Canucks had not done to this point was regain a lead. But they did that this time.
And not just that, like 12 seconds later.
Yeah, I think 40 seconds later, something like that.
Oh, yeah, 42 seconds later, yes. I got too excited.
But it's Horvat, his third of the year, second of the night. I don't even remember this goal. I just remember being excited.
Oh, yeah. He won the face-off, and then Pullman put it to the net, and it bounced off someone, like a Columbus guy's skate, and then it bounced off Horvat's skate. Or Horvat's
perfect.
leg.
Yeah. That's why I didn't remember.
It was a good mucky muck goal. Yep.
So the Canucks have the lead again, and then Johnny Gaudreau scores like 2.5 minutes later, and this really is a testament to how slow the Canucks defense can be when it's guys like Luke Shen out there, because Johnny Gaudreau finds so much space.
Yeah.
To just skate right through the middle. Take it around the net. Great edge work around the net to beat Martin to the post. Martin overcommits a little bit to the right side and can't push all the way over. Just a silly mistake, but one that happens. Yeah. It's a great goal to tie the game up. And then we're just in nail-biter mode, basically, for the last 10 minutes.
And just before we break down the overtime, and then I want to break down the overtime, then I want to talk about who played and who didn't. But that Gaudreau goal, yes, he's a great skater, and I know a lot of attention was put on Martin. Why was he so aggressive? I'm not sure if you saw it. Gaudreau crossed over, he turned Stillman, and then when he went around, Shen, instead of cutting Gaudreau off at the far post, which I know things happen fast, but that's what you want to do, for some reason he skated to the same side as Stillman, the one that Gaudreau just came from, checking a guy, not recognizing that Stillman could have checked that guy, and Shen, if he had cut off Gaudreau, then you block that shot attempt. But I don't know, you remember Stillman and Shen end up on one side, and then there's no one checking Gaudreau.
Yeah, there was no one checking Gaudreau. And it's a great goal, but it's one that you could tell just gave them a ton of life. Yes. Obviously, the Canucks hang on for the last 10 minutes. There was that goalie interference on Nyquist that was so obvious.
Yep.
And then the Canucks had some power play chances. That didn't go their way. And then the Canucks make it to overtime. They get their first point of the year. At this point, I breathe a sigh of relief because I'm thinking, okay, they at least get a point. Something's changed here. Yeah. Maybe not by that much because, it's Columbus. They're not like the best team, but whatever. The Canucks got a point.
Yes.
They can at least say that. And then they immediately give up a 3-0 in overtime. Just like 2 years ago to the St. Louis Blues. But this time, was it Werenski who just put it over the net?
Yeah, over the net. Maybe Martin grunted at him or something as he came out.
Yeah,
but
you just can't do that. I think Garrett on the replay said that it started rolling on him or something. But on a 3-0, I mean, you can't do that. So
that was right after PD hit the post, right?
I think it was right after. No, I think the goal was right after the post. Maybe, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Either way, there was a post hit by the Canucks.
Yeah.
And then, Columbus goes down and they score.
I remember Horvat shot it, and then Hoglander was on the wrong side of Columbus guy, and then Horvat inexplicably tried to intercept the pass instead of breaking up the 2-on-1, making it a 2-on-2. So now that's why it became a 2-on-1, because Hoglander and Horvat were stuck in the corner.
Yeah. And then just the laziness on display in that overtime. I mean, Hughes at the end of like a minute and a half shift, and he looked slow. There was a good clip that I saw like immediately on my phone. I know it wasn't even when they scored, but of JT Miller just standing there in the middle of the ice, like just holding his stick, and then having like a guy, the defenseman, skate around to the far post, and him just not even trying to contest it. And I was like, you can't. You're doing exactly what everyone accuses you of doing. You know, it's getting hard to defend that. You know, and then I don't remember the exact play on the goal, how lazy it was, but it was just it was the 2-on-1, right? Horvat gets stopped. Voracek just wins the battle, sends it ahead. Now it's a 2-on-1. Hughes is at the end of a minute, 26 seconds shift. He goes for the dive poke. I like it because the dive poke, no one expects it. They expect you to go straight down, keep the stick out to block the pass. But really quick reaction to get the pass over quickly enough. It's just out of the reach of Horvat, and a great shot. Canucks are 0-3-1.
I will say that the OT goal, Parker, I chalked it up. That one wasn't laziness to me. It was just bad decision making. Hoglander, bad decision. Horvat, bad decision. Even Hughes, even though it was unique, it looks like bad decision. So, okay, so we've talked about what's happened on the ice. So let's talk about the two. So you get excited because Myers, who I think we could all agree, he's steady Eddie. He's fine. He played 22 minutes and he was fine. So Myers and Mikheyev come back. Myers, I think, was fine. Mikheyev struggled a little bit. I think he was a -2 or -3. But then the two guys, the defenseman that gets benched or doesn't get in. So Burroughs was hurt maybe from that's from the Washington game. But then Rathbone is sitting while Stillman is still playing in Dermott's absence, and that confounded me. And then Connor Garland is the one who's benched and not Joshua or Hoglander. So which of those two, or maybe both, talk to me about both of those, Garland and Rathbone not playing.
Yeah, the Garland one was much more weird to me. Garland analytically has been totally fine. I think eye test wise maybe a little lackluster. But I think benching a guy to try to send a message when he's kind of been okay, maybe a little worse than expected, when there's other players that have been worse. You're still trying to win hockey games, right? And I don't think sending the message is as important as breaking this 3-game losing streak that you've put yourselves into. That's the most important part. I thought that was odd. I really, you're going to do that, and then you're going to play Joshua under 9 minutes in that game, right? And he had a barren stat line. All zeros across the board. He had 1 takeaway, as per NHL.com. And you can make the argument of, well, he plays a little bit on the penalty kill, but I mean, he only had 30 seconds of PK time, right? That's not enough to matter in the grand scheme of the game. I mean, how much did Joshua play in the Capitals game, right? It was 12:50, while Garland had played 14:51. Although Garland again did basically nothing in that Washington game, while Joshua had 5 hits, so maybe that lays into it a bit. But Joshua then had 0 hits in that Columbus game. That one was much more weird to me, and I bet that gets changed before tomorrow night's game in Minnesota. As for Rathbone not being in, I kind of see it, but for that one I kind of see it, but I don't see it for tomorrow. I think you
gets in?
You're at the point where you got to keep changing something, right, to try to spark something. And that's the easiest change you can make, is putting Garland back in the lineup, pulling out Stillman, who still, is the lowest plus minus on the team yesterday. He didn't get practice time with the team during training camp. He was, not fantastic last year in Chicago. And you just, you need some life. You need some speed. You need something. You need maybe a spark. And it seems just like the obvious solution.
So you go Hugh Shen, Oyel Myers, and then Rathbone Pullman, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to Hughes, Pullman, Rathbone, Shen. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I think so. You can, maybe it goes poorly, right? Maybe Rathbone isn't great, but you can't just not try, right? You can't just throw in the towel and be like, well, this is our D core when it's not good enough. Because maybe Rathbone can be an impact player, and maybe he can be a number 5 defenseman, which would make him one of the best defensemen available. So yeah.
And you know what's a tiny bit concerning, Parker, blown leads notwithstanding, is that team that played against Columbus yesterday, aside from Dermott in for Stillman, that's our team. That was our health. Well, and you can argue
Martin
Garland
as
and
well.
Yeah, exactly. But everyone's healthy now except for Dermott. So
and I think Martin was totally fine, right?
Yep.
I mean, he didn't win the game for the Canucks, obviously, but he didn't lose it either.
Yeah.
I mean, he defended a 3-on-0. That's pretty big.
What would you do if you were the goalie in a 3-on-0? Truly.
You just try to keep square to whoever's the puck and hope they don't pass it again. I think that's really just your best bet. I don't think you can try to be aggressive or anything. It's too easy to get to either side.
Yeah.
I think you just gotta hope you make the save.
But isn't that the most Canucks thing right now is to give up a 3-on-0 and then actually to not have them score, but then they score like right after that.
Yeah. No, it's not great. What helps the Canucks?
Yep.
Is that tomorrow they play a team that is right now the worst defensive team in hockey.
Whoa, good.
They are playing a team that has allowed 20 goals in their 3 games.
Oh,
they lost 7-3 to the Rangers, 7-6 to the Kings, and 6-3 to the Avs. Now, the Rangers and Avs are good teams, and LA is not too bad either.
Right.
So, the Wild are looking at this and saying, "Oh, this is our good chance to get our first win."
Yeah.
But if you're the Canucks, I mean, this is you have to go win this game. Minnesota has not been good. They cannot get a save. They cannot get anything defensive going.
Yes.
It's a game they have to win.
There are 3 winless teams in the league, and 2 of them are playing each other tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, 2 of them were last night too.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, you're really seeing some stoppable forces meeting movable objects tomorrow. Look, Minnesota's power play is clicking at 43%. Obviously, low sample size, but they're fine offensively. I mean, they've allowed 20 goals in their 3 games. I mean, they've scored 15 or 12? Sorry, only 12 in their 3 games, but that's pretty good. The other problem, though, is their penalty kill is, I mean, it's better than the Canucks at 69.2%, while the Canucks is at 57.1%.
We're at 57%.
Yeah. Is that a surprising number based on what you've seen?
Well, I don't know. 60 was bad last year. I can't believe we're at 57.
57% on the kill, 11.8 on the power play. So we should be seeing the power play clicking for both teams tomorrow. We should see a high-scoring game.
Speaking of which, I love Adam's score prediction. The Nucks will be winning 7-2 after 2, but lose 23-7.
It's possible. It wouldn't be the craziest thing, I feel like. I mean, you look at the goaltending stats here. Marc-Andre Fleury's just played the 1 game.
Okay.
Actually, no, sorry. He has played 2 games. He started their opening night against the Rangers, allowed 7 goals in that entire game. And then he started against the Kings 2 nights later and allowed 4 goals on 14 shots.
Awesome.
So Fleury has been bad. Not like Philip Gustafsson has been much better, as he got credit for the loss in that game that Fleury got pulled in because he allowed 3 goals on 20 shots and the Wild scored 6. So he technically gets the loss. And then he started the game 2 nights ago on Monday against Colorado and allowed 5 goals on 37 shots. So they also cannot get a save.
Yeah, this is going to be wow. So what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Truly.
I think it's going to be high scoring. I mean, it's going to be Demko for the Canucks. No doubt about that. I imagine they go back to Fleury, but he's looked not great.
Yeah.
But again, Philip Gustafson's number 2, and he's also looked bad.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see Demko and Fleury, who are historically good goalies, that are both not playing great. Fleury playing quite a bit worse. And you got to hope it just ends up going the Canucks' way.
And a small storyline that's kind of been lost in this is Boudreau is still chasing win number 600, and he had a chance to do it when you were watching against his first, where it all started, and then now he can do it against his third team, the Minnesota Wild. So another chance for Boudreau to hit that milestone against an ex-team of his.
Mm-hmm. And you have Brock Besser back in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Who's been playing, decent. No goals, but three assists in those 4 games. The way Pettersson's been playing, he needs to be a factor tomorrow. He has been fantastic through these first 4 games. He's been basically the lone bright spot, right? Maybe you can call Kuzmenko 1-2 with that goal in the opening game. But yeah, if Pettersson needs to be putting up numbers tomorrow. It's a chance for him to get points basically 7 and 8 tomorrow. Yeah. They'll need it because I don't think 3 goals wins this game.
Right. I agree with you. And Minnesota, as you laid out, is apt to let in that many goals. So this, well, you just look at the record. You think that this, well, I thought this about last night's game. You think this is one where the Canucks can win, and if they win and they come back 1-3-1, it's not great, but at least they're coming back with arguably 3 points in the last 4, right? Of the last 4. And then you're fending off some of the boo birds and the angst Saturday night in your home opener. But Park, if they lose, and if they lose bad, I don't want them to do this, obviously. I don't know what it's going to be like on Saturday night.
Yeah, it might be miserable. But look, looking at their schedule, we said they had an opportunity to turn around with the Flyers and then Columbus. They have an opportunity to turn it around. And they have the Wild tomorrow. Okay. They got the Sabres on Saturday, home opener. Yeah. That's one of those games that is just it's a scheduled win for the Canucks basically that I have no confidence in them actually winning. Then they have Carolina a couple nights later. Carolina hasn't lost a game yet, right? So they might have some trouble there. But then they get the Kraken, they have the Devils, the Ducks, the Preds, the Sens, the Habs, like a nice little stretch there where if the Canucks basically win the games they're supposed to over the next 2.5 weeks, they're a 500 team again. And then, they need to build from there. But they really haven't made their lives easy at this point.
It's, and I know we both said, we both said either 2-2-1 or 2-1-2. No, that doesn't make sense. But we both said, coming back with 5 points would be great. 5 or 6, not 1 or 3.
Yeah.
Not 1. Oh.
Those were not the numbers that we used.
I was thinking, Parker, as I'm watching them lose too, I'm already thinking of my bets for a little game. And I'm already like the longest losing streak. We're getting there.
4?
Yeah, I said 4 or 5. I was pretty optimistic.
Yeah, so you could already be out if they lose their next game because they have lost 4 already.
They have.
Yeah. And that takes us to a really fun place to be. I actually want to see if I can find that line graph because I bet it has movement now. But I don't think I can find it that easily. But we just go to something like The Athletic, right? One of those models that has historically been decent. And I saw Trance getting heat for just tweeting out that the Canucks odds have dropped to 27%.
Yes.
Based on their first 4 games. Everyone's like, oh, it's only 4 games. It's like, yeah, just 4 losses though, right? Like it's going to adjust because now the amount of games that they had to win before, they now only have 78 games to do it instead of 82, right? Which is harder. I saw a stat that basically said they need to play at a 6:15 pace to hit 97 points now. It's just crazy how fast it can start to fall apart. Now, every team is going to have a 4-game losing streak this year. It's just how it's. Maybe Colorado won't, because I don't think they did last year.
Great.
But every team has a 4-game losing streak. If this just is a 4-game losing streak, and then the Canucks play the rest of their season, maybe they have a few winning streaks here and there that make up for it. Great. The problem is if it keeps tumbling, right? Because if they forbid they lose this game against Minnesota tomorrow, then suddenly you've lost 5 games and now you're up against Buffalo, and you have to beat Buffalo, because then you start getting some tougher matchups like Carolina and Pittsburgh. It's hard to predict when they're going to get out of this tumble, because everyone thought it would be against the Flyers after that first blown game, and then against Columbus yesterday, and they failed both times. So it's getting to the point where it's like, hey, well, you gotta just get the win now, right? Yeah. I mean, when the Canucks were in that spot last year, right? What were they? They were 8-15-2.
Yep.
So there were 7 games below 500. Well, they're 3 games below 500 right now, right? Wouldn't take them long to get more. 7 games below 500 was too much of a hurdle, right? With how well the Canucks played at the end of last year. Does this team have what it takes to overcome a 5 games below 500 hurdle? Maybe, but they couldn't pull 7 off last year, so they need to stop the bleeding as soon as possible.
If you were to give the 3, I'll give you a chance. If you were to give the 3 reasons why we are losing, it can be as minute or as big or specific or as general as you want. So, stating the obvious, they can't hold a lead. Number 2, their special teams suck. Number 3, their team defense is poor. I'm not blaming it all on the Blue Liners. What do you say?
Yeah, it's not great.
Am I missing any big storyline in there?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
They have their lineup at this point, right?
Yep.
Is anyone out right now? Other than, I guess, Dermott. Right?
Dermott, yeah.
Dermott's the only one that's out. And sure, that would be an improvement to team defense, but he's not a notorious defensive D-man, right? And you're getting to the point where, okay, maybe we're taking out Stillman for Rathbone.
Yeah.
Is Burrows getting back in the lineup at any point? Who are we taking out for Dermott? Is it really that big of an upgrade at that point when we're talking about Pullman for Dermott, Shen for Dermott, right? It starts to be we're getting into lateral move territory here, because like we said, the Canucks have so many number 6-7 defensemen, and they need 1 or 2 of them to evolve and become better. I mean, I think your best chance of that is a Rathbone, maybe even a Burrows. I mean, I've really liked what I've seen from him last year, and then I think he's been totally fine so far in these first 4 games. Obviously not good enough, but he did get that 1 goal at the very least. So
yep. And one player who's been taking a lot of heat, Parker, and you referenced him, his effort or lack thereof, is JT Miller. And remember, we get him for another 7 years after this, when his new contract actually kicks in. So it hasn't even kicked in yet. Of course, that means there's no trade clause. Hasn't kicked in yet either. Having said that, I think I'm getting choppy, but that's fine. What did you witness in the 2 games that you saw live?
There was some angst. I think when he's on, he's a very good hockey player. But man, when he is not on, it's very noticeable. And part of that is the contract, right? Part of it is you're kind of looking for it, because he just got, $56 million, US dollars, mind you, from this hockey team, and he's looked just disconnected at times. He's looked like he hasn't cared. And there's been moments where it looks like he does care, right? If he can be that JT Miller for the entire season and for all of every game, then that's fantastic. Because last year he was similar to what he's doing now for big chunks of the season, and he still put up 99 points. Yeah. Right? So if we get JT Miller, that is all the good parts of JT Miller at all times, he can get back to 99 points. But that we have never seen that consistency, right? That's just never been there. We had these discussions all throughout last year of man, JT Miller was so good. And then the next night, man, like, what was he doing on this play in particular? Here's a clip of him standing still while a guy blows by him and scores, or not back checking, or X, Y, or Z. And it's just so frustrating because you can see what he has, and he just doesn't use it.
Yeah. I'll take 80 to 85 points from JT Miller, Parker, if it means that he's playing a lot better defensively, if it means that he's showing effort. Yeah. So, but when you, well, I guess he's got 3 and 4, so it's not bad. Or is he even a 4 and 4? I know it's not brutal. He must have at least 3 points, right? 3 and 4?
I think so, yeah.
No, 4 and 4. Regardless, he's on an 80. If he's 4 and 4, he's on an 82-point pace. But we got to see some D. We got to see some defense.
He has 3 points. He has 2 goals, 1 assist. He has a -4 though.
Wow.
Not great.
Wow. Now, so we're both going to this Carolina game. So what does that mean for our show next week? Because there's no way we're both going to be back in our respective places for 10 o'clock.
Yeah, considering it is a 7:30 start.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's going to be a late one. I think that'll be a lovely opportunity for a Tuesday night episode, which is only 6 days away. So we're improving. We're getting back to our normal times.
Yeah.
Which honestly means that, which is just impressive on our part.
Very impressive. Yet we'll have 3 games to talk about. We'll have tomorrow night's Minnesota game, the Saturday home opener against Buffalo, which neither of us are going to, and the Carolina game, which both of us are going to.
Unless the Canucks lose all 3 of these games, and then the podcast is canceled.
No, I don't.
We're done until they win. That's my official statement. There's no more Canucks After Dark until the Canucks win a game. Because then technically the darkness will not be over.
Wow.
So hopefully you'll see us next Tuesday.
That's the plan. No, they will. We're going to win at least one of the next 3, aren't we?
Oh, they beat Minnesota tomorrow, I think.
Exactly.
And then suddenly, hey, we're only 2 games back of 500. Then you just got to beat the Sabres. Easy. That's the Sabres.
And then we're one. Yeah.
And then you got to beat the Carolina Hurricanes, and we'll be there. So, and the double negative thing is an automatic win. So
yeah. So what you're saying guaranteed. Is we're gonna be 3-3-1 by the time we podcast next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they aren't. But hopefully.
Oh man. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for flying cross continent, staying up, because even at the best of times, and we've told the story before to all of you viewers. Thank you for your loyalty. That when we decided on a time and a format and a name, we knew that one of us was an early riser. No, wrong way.
Pointed the wrong way.
And one of us was a notorious night owl. So the early riser sacrificed for the night owl to make this work. So thank you, Parker.
Mm-hmm. No, it's this was fun as always. We do still have 8 minutes somehow. So folks, this is your chance to ask us questions. Wow, I just realized if you go into the Canucks website and you go on the right-hand side, there's a player leaderboard, and it still just says all the stats from last year. It's like, JT Miller has 32 goals this year and 67 assists.
He's good.
Yeah.
Jaskrin says both of us can play on the right side. Well, Parker is a good... You're a defenseman, right?
Yeah, right side.
Yeah. I can sit on the bench and open it from the right side. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Perfect. Sold. Jaskrin saying I'm a negative Nancy. They're 0-3. They are by definition negative. So I am just...
Parker's your favorite. What are you doing, man?
I'm being led by example from my favorite hockey team. Unfortunately.
Well, I like this one. Is it time to try Miller back on the wing?
Yeah, why not? Because as a centerman, he has so much more defensive responsibility that it's so much more noticeable when there is one of those mistakes or lack of effort results. So I would say, if it takes putting him back on the wing, I'm sold. I saw some stats tweeted out today about Miller's numbers with Pettersson and without Pettersson last year, and how drastic of a difference it was. Positively for him when he's with Pettersson. Pettersson performs regardless. So, I feel like putting him in the best situation to perform, I would be totally fine with him moving to the wing.
Then are you fine with
face-offs and you can take face-offs and play the wing?
So then are you fine? So I was thinking about this. So let's say you go Lotto line, for instance. Then I think you want Horvat, obviously, as your second center. Maybe, let's just say you put Kuzmenko and Mikheyev with him, or Mikheyev and Podkolzin, or whatever, 2 of the 3 Russians.
Yeah. That
leaves you with a third line, though, of Lazar as your third line center between either Pearson and Garland or Hogland or whatever it is. And then someone like Hogland or Garland or Podkolzin gets shuttled down the fourth line because you have to play Lazar up to the third line. And then, right. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I'm not too concerned. I think Lazar's fine playing 3C. I mean, they had him playing on the Pettersson line for a stint there already.
That's true.
And I'm not too worried about your fourth line, who your fourth line center is.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's say you have a defensive zone face-off. I mean, throw Horvat out there for the face-off, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Win the face-off, clear the zone, and then go sub-off for someone else.
Right.
It's obviously not ideal to have someone who's not a natural center playing center. But I mean, I just think you have to have, you have to get JT Miller going, especially with the contract he has. So I would not hate to see him put on the wing.
Okay. Good answers.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got here? Yeah. A lot of love for a lot of line reunion for sure.
Yeah, and I would say, even if you do Pettersson, Miller, and like a Kuzmenko, I think would be fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or Mikheyev or whoever you want to put up there. I don't really care about left and right sides for wingers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you just put someone quick with them. And yeah, if you go like Horvat, Besser, and then Mikheyev or Kuzmenko, I think you're looking pretty decent top 6. I mean, the Canucks have 9 capable forwards.
They do.
They have a good top 9, and I think you're fine just mixing and matching until you find something that's working and playing decent defense.
There was some talk yesterday, Parker, that maybe Kuzmenko playing 3 and 4, not used to the rigors of that maybe. I don't want to say hit a wall, but slowing down a little bit, especially compared to the first 2 outings. So kind of Edmund saying, how are you liking Kuzmenko? He's been fine. I think he's been good. Yeah, he was a little bit less noticeable yesterday, but I think overall for first 4 games, I think he's fine.
Yeah, I haven't noticed him negatively.
Yeah.
I mean, look, remember, we were expecting a guy who maybe would get like 25 points and at worst, and he's been better than that. So I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, you can look at, I can pull up some, analytics stuff for him, and he looks pretty good.
Good.
While he's on the ice, expected goals for 2.9, expected goals against 1.5. So really good in that metric. I mean, he's a -2, he's a -2, but when he's on the ice, his team save percentage is abysmal, and that's not his fault, right? That's just unlucky, right? So when he's on the ice, the Canucks are scoring on 8.3% of their shots, while he's on the ice, the other team's scoring at 23.5% of their shots.
Oh my gosh.
So on ice for 4 goals for, 4 goals against. He is getting sheltered though, right? I mean, his Corsi is 84-32 while he's on the ice. Right, which is fantastic. Wow. But he is also starting 80% of his starts in the offensive zone compared to 20% of the defensive zone. So that helps as well. But analytically wise, he's been good, like genuinely good. And I don't think a couple of slow games, while the whole team's been pretty slow, should matter all that much. Yeah.
It's funny, you were talking about 9 good forwards. I agree. Japan says 9 capable forwards, but only 2 good D-men and the rest HL. And that's a little bit harsh, but I understand the sentiment.
I genuinely think the Canucks have like a number 1, a number 3, a number 4, and then a bunch of 6s and 7s. Having one of those 6 and 7s be a 2, suddenly you have a crazy good, you have a really good defense. But they don't have that, right? They basically have... They basically have to have guys pretend that they're better than they are and hope it works out.
Huh. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
glad to have you back in town.
Yeah. Sorry this wasn't the most fun episode with how sad everything is, but I mean, the Canucks need to start winning. We did this all of last year.
Yes,
All
we
of
want
last
to.
year.
We want to have fun ones. Like we're having fun because we enjoy each other's company. We trust each other. We love having all of you in the chat, and it's been a wonderful chat all night as we've been seeing it all go. But we would also love to talk about some wins, please.
Yeah, a lot of wins, ideally. Consistent wins for the entire season would be nice.
Yep.
It would be nice to have the Canucks trying to hang on to a playoff spot instead of trying desperately to get back in.
In November.
I mean, well, that's the thing, right? Like, the playoff race by the end of November is usually pretty close to how it shakes out at the end of the year, right? Mm-hmm. So they need to pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah. I'm with you.
All right.
So next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, 10 p.m. I'll be back with my post game starting tomorrow against the Minnesota Wild. Clay will be live in a matter of 5 minutes with his nightly show, which I'm sure is so much fun. Tell people to watch this one. Are losing. Yeah, just send them back. Go back and start that one over and pretend it's new. Yeah. Otherwise, though, I mean, sort of one of the topics we go around. Like, do you see something big changing in the next week before we meet again?
I don't. Unless the Canucks go 0 for 3, I think no matter what happens tomorrow, hopefully it's a win. I really think they're going to see how they play at home because it is a difference with the crowd, with the last change, just the vibe. If they do stinkers against Buffalo and Carolina, though, then they come out of the first 7 with 1 win or 0, then I think you have to make a change. But Rutherford's been talking to Dolly Wan and everyone else who listened that he's going to be patient.
He's notoriously impatient, though.
Yes, exactly. So he's saying one thing.
Yes. He's always said, like, I'm not planning on making any trades, and then boom, someone's gone, right? And it always seems to be Tanner Pearson. So we'll see what happens there. If anything, he'd be one of my predictions, though, if something were to happen, just based on the history.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you all very much for watching tonight. Hope you enjoyed this little therapy session. This is just venting. If you enjoyed the show, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. It helps us out a lot. You can find me on Twitter at ParkersPucks, Clay on Twitter at Canuck Clay. Both of our YouTube channels are those same names. Clay, any parting words for the evening?
Looking forward to getting on the winning track tomorrow. Looking forward to being in the arena with you. It's not the same seats, but at least we're both there. And let's be talking about a 500 hockey team on Tuesday. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Hopefully. That would be lovely. Folks, if you missed any part, you can rewind back to the beginning. It'll be up on your favorite podcast platform in a few minutes. Hope you have a good night. Hopefully we all enjoy the game tomorrow. And we'll see you next week.